Hey guys, and welcome to some more exclusive gameplay of Anthem. This video was made possible by EA Game Changers. I was flown out by EA to go to Stockholm to play a full day of Anthem. This isn't the finished game and this isn't the VIP demo, it's all subject to change, it's still a work in progress, so do bear that in mind with some of the gameplay. Today we're going to be looking at some free play stuff, but more specifically we're going to be looking at different abilities and builds that myself, Arix Gaming and Willis Gaming all ran on the Interceptor, Colossus and Storm. We show off as many abilities as we possibly can, some really awesome synergies and builds that you could potentially run, even starting this week with a VIP demo that starts at the weekend. My name is Ryan Central, do subscribe to the channel for more Anthem content if you're interested, and we do have a standard copy of Anthem giveaway going on at the moment. It ends in 3 days, and then we'll have another giveaway starting up shortly after that. Really easy to enter, it's in the description and comments. So let's start with all of my abilities and builds. As the Interceptor, at least in this demo that we tried out, you start off with the abilities Plasma Star, which is the 4-hit shuriken thing that you can use, and also a Venom Bomb, which does acid damage and also counts as a primer. You saw this gameplay well before, it was the first video that came out of Stockholm, but going on to the next one with the sniper rifle, I still had the Plasma Stars, I didn't unlock anything else, but I did get a cluster mine, which I honestly sucked at using. There's some really good examples from IGN gameplay that you can check out, where they use it to throw at bosses because it does a good amount of burst damage when all of the smaller cluster mines hit the target. It's pretty good, it explodes after a certain amount of time. It either detonates on impact of the enemy or just detonates over time if you're not careful, but a really solid ability for those missions where you have a lot of enemies to take care of. As I mentioned, the Plasma Star, fairly straightforward, you throw out 4 at a time, you see quite a lot of it, has a really long distance range, so you can, stand at a distance from an enemy and throw those at them and still do a good amount of damage with them. So they're pretty good, like they're very basic, they don't lock onto a target or anything, they just zoom straight ahead to where you're aiming, but I would recommend using these as long as possible because they are really good for the Interceptor, at least early game. At this point I didn't know an awful lot about priming and detonating, so I really should have used the acid bomb a lot more and then jumped into melee because that causes a combo, gives me as the Interceptor a acid aura that ends up doing more damage when you throw melee damage out there. So it's effectively a nice little combo system build that you can run, but both of these builds that I've just highlighted, the Plasma Star with either the cluster mines or the Venom Bomb, very generic, very basic, but now we can go on to some pretty cool stuff. The 2 abilities that I now have equipped with this ice blue Interceptor that I'm running is the Cryoglaive and then a Tempest Strike. The Cryoglaive, fairly straightforward, you throw out basically a Plasma Star, but it does lock onto a certain target and it also freezes them if they're weak enough. If you throw it at a boss, I imagine it would be immune, or it would take a lot of these glaives to actually freeze a bigger target. So mostly used for crowd control, you can freeze the target, which of course primes it, and then you have the Tempest Strike ability, which is a nice roundhouse kick that acts as a detonator. So it's a really nice straightforward build that you can, freeze the target, then roundhouse kick them in the face. There's a little bit of an AoE from the Tempest Strike, but for the most part I used it to take down targets when I was overrun, knock them back a little bit, make a little bit of space for myself, but the Cryoglaive was fairly good at shutting down targets that were being an absolute menace. I'll let you watch some of this gameplay. If you want to see more of these world events, then do let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to cover these more in another video, but I really wanted to highlight the builds, so do check out a little bit of action with this ice build that I ran. As I've said in many videos, this is still very early game. We've unlocked 1 component which I'm about to show in the next gameplay, which I will highlight, but this is like level 5. So we haven't unlocked any epic masterwork gear, we haven't got components that influence a playstyle, but you can see here how we can have like an ice build Interceptor with a lot of focus on the melee strike to detonate targets that have been affected by certain elements, and also with your melee, your nimbleness, your speed, really good for an Interceptor to be on the receiving end of these combos. Now this build, I've been so excited to show this one to you guys ever since we recorded the gameplay, as it features the Spark Dash, which in my opinion, at least the abilities that I tried, is one of the best abilities that we've seen so far. It's interesting how it works. It requires a target for you to actually lock onto. If you don't have a target, it just won't let you do anything, but you lock onto a target and you just basically charge right at them. At speed, doing damage, really good for closing the distance between you and a target. It's also a detonated ability, so if that target is frozen, on fire, covered in acid, you will combo with that for even more damage. It is perfect for any form of melee build that an Interceptor wants to run. And speaking of which, in this gameplay I had one component equipped at level 6, and that was to increase my melee damage. Granted, I didn't use the melee ability as much as I should have with that kind of build, but it really makes me an all-round amazing assassin, being able to close the distance, having that Spark Dash, whilst also having a Tempest Strike for any nearby enemies. Spark Dashing into a group of mobs, Tempest Striking, knocking them all back, using melee damage to really put the icing on the cake. Both of these abilities are detonators, so as I said, you're with a ranger that throws out an Inferno Grenade, sets everybody on fire, then you charge in, you are going to be an absolute meteor, and honestly, I can't wait to try this at much higher levels. But that's just some of the stuff that I wanted to highlight with the Interceptor. We'll show you a little bit more of this build whilst I absolutely tear through the enemies here, then we'll have a look a little bit at the Colossus. So this is Arx's gameplay. You can check out all of his stuff from Stockholm in the description below. I've highlighted his videos that you can definitely check out, and I would recommend it. Also on that subject, we've been doing a lot of gameplay showcases from other people from Stockholm, IGN, bits and pieces, Geo, video, and also stuff like MTashed. If you want to see more of that stuff, do let me know in the comments below. Really fun to do. A lot of amazing feedback that I got from it. With that said, highlighting over the Colossus abilities, you start with the Railgun, which is this ability on the bottom right. The Railgun I've really failed to highlight. It's a charged ability, can do quite a lot of damage. We've seen quite a lot of the Colossus gameplay from it, hence why I skimmed over it. But honestly, it is a pretty powerful ability. You can tell because Arx, when he went into Freeplay, decided to re-equip a Railgun. Maybe he got a rarer or just a much better version of it when out and about. But in any case, he ends up fully equipping the Burst Mortar and the Railgun, which I think is a very generic but incredibly powerful loadout that a Colossus can have. Basically good for all occasions. Then you have the High Explosive Mortar, which is a single shot mortar that does a lot of damage. Both of these abilities are detonators, so if you're with, say, a storm that's freezing everyone, you're going to do a lot of damage. This is very much a build that's designed to be as powerful as possible, throwing out the real weaponry here. As Arx progressed through the Stockholm gameplay that he had, he changed up his abilities a couple of times. Going from the Lost Arcanist mission, which was like level 2, level 3, to the Preventative Precaution one, he changed his single mortar for a burst mortar you can see in the bottom right, which instead of firing a bigger mortar, it fires out a volley of smaller ones. Really good for area of effect damage. However, with the multi-mortar, you can see here with this clip of Arx, you do sacrifice a lot of precision and accuracy, from a distance at least, when you use it. So if you're going up against a boss, or a single target that's really strong that you know you're going to face, definitely pick up the single mortar instead of the multi one. If you're on missions where there's a lot of mobs like Scars, definitely go for the burst mortar. And he changed out his railgun for a heavy cannon, which is a large rocket in a targeted direction, seems very straightforward to use, and as you can tell, it really packs a punch. And the final ability that I wanted to highlight is the Acid Spitter. You can see that it's a multi-shot ability, and it fires little globules of acid at the target. It's a priming ability, so really good for combos, and just really good to spread on targets that are grouped up together. There's still a lot of abilities that we haven't quite seen yet on the Colossus, but you get a good example of some of these builds that can be ran. The great thing about this so far that we've highlighted is that you can mix mix and match these abilities for even more interesting stuff. I don't feel it's going to be a case of, oh, you should pick this ability alongside this ability to have the perfect loadout. That's very meta. I really do feel it comes down to personal preference, and also if you get a really good roll on a weapon, you might want to pick that up. Arex could have gone back to the railgun in his later gameplay, either because he got a better version of that ability, or he just prefers it. And honestly, I'm really excited to mix and match certain abilities and synergies when it comes to ability loadouts specifically. Not to mention going into components and weapons and masterwork, all that. It's going to be really interesting to theory craft some of this stuff. But I digress, let's go over some Storm gameplay with Willis Gaming. Lost Arcanist sees you starting with the Frost Shards, which are a channeled ability that can freeze targets from a distance, as you've seen countless times. And of course, the poster child ability of the Storm, the Lightning Strike. Later on, for the preventative precaution mission where he also uses a sniper rifle, he switched out the Lightning Strike for a Rime Blast, which basically throws out ice rocks that freeze a target. I think about 5 in total. You want to be using this when you're really close to an enemy, otherwise the rocks on either side may miss the target that you're aiming for. You can see it slowly going out here. And instead of the Frost Shards, you have Ball Lightning, which goes straight at the target doing electric damage. Both of these abilities, again, are primer, so can you imagine Willis teaming up with Arex's build with all of the detonators? There'd be combos for days, even with the Interceptor stuff that we highlighted. Throwing out the Rime Blast, freezing the target, the Interceptor coming in with Spark Dash, combo, amazing damage. He also equips Glacial Beam in his second slot, which fires a beam of powerful ice energy in a targeted direction, basically the railgun of ice abilities for the Storm. And seeing as he has the Rime Blast equipped too, you can tell that he was trying out a little bit of an ice build to see how it worked. And considering that you have both a priming and detonating ability, you can combo with yourself. Willis got a lot of abilities because now he's showing off the Fireball. This is an ability that can be fired in smaller doses. As you can see, it says out of 5 charges of the weapon. So you can either fire them in quick blasts as a volley, or you can charge it up to be a big powerful fireball they can throw at a target. So a very versatile ability overall, can use it for a multitude of occasions, and is of course a detonator. So want to set off a quick combo, you can easily do that. Want to do a bit more damage, you can most certainly do that with the Fireball ability. And the final ability that I wanted to highlight was the Arc Burst, which unleashes a ball of lightning that will leap to nearby targets for heavy damage. You can see how you can charge up and it will branch across nearby targets doing electric damage. It is worth noting though that it is neither a primer nor a detonator, so it doesn't combo. It just has this little AoE effect. Really good if you're building a lightning build, which is what Willis managed to do. He had an ice build, fire build, and a lightning one. So if you want that kind of elemental build type, then the Storm is definitely the Javelin that you want to be running. And that is all of the gameplay that I have to show you here. I really just wanted to highlight certain abilities and builds that were shown, give you examples of stuff that you could do in the VIP demo, which is of course this week. Thank you for watching, and thanks again to Arex and Willis for letting me use their gameplay. I would love to look at some Ranger stuff, but I don't really know anybody that actually picked it, so I'll keep an eye out. If I see any more gameplay, I'll be sure to show you guys and do a bit more of a showcase when it happens. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. There's still more to come out of the Stockholm trip and a little bit more, so do subscribe to keep up to date with that. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.